All right, so this is going to be talking about 75 hard. Normally, I encourage anybody that's not interested in that message to click out. You know, that's my normal message. In this case, I'm going to suggest this. If you make it to 10 seconds, I'm going to ask you to stay the entire time and give me, I don't know how long it's going to be. Maybe it's 15 minutes. I'm going to try to keep it under 20. But let me share a couple of things that I know that everybody can use, right? So this is round 2, basically, for me on the 75 hard. But I didn't just learn about the physicality of doing something difficult. It's tying in with everything else. And there's so many people that are working on this piece that I feel like there's an incredible message that's available to be shared. I think I'm probably a good person to share it because I've struggled with all these things. And I see the level of suffering that's available most of the time and what people are putting themselves through in their own mindset. And so I know that the message is needed, even though where I'm sitting right now, getting through the 75 hard and where everything's at in my life, it almost feels so simple to do the right things that I could just dismiss the message and not share it. But I'm pushing myself past that because I do believe that somebody needs the message. And that's why I once a year I share the sober video, just talking about what it's like to live without alcohol. And I know a lot of people struggle with that idea. And then this next piece is really, you know, it was 75 days. My second round, the first round was November of 2023. This second round I just finished of 75 days hard. It was no sugar, no fried food, no bread. It was really just eating whole food, working out twice a day, drinking a gallon of water, reading 10 pages of a book. In hindsight, the plan is incredibly simple. It's not perfect. It's not right for everybody, but there's a couple parts of it that provide so much clarity if that's what you're looking for. The reason I share the message, too, is because probably 15 years ago, I just couldn't find anybody that would be honest with me about how to overcome the challenges I had. So they were all internal. They were all self-sabotage. Whether it was turning people off with my personality, projecting some of my own insecurities, letting fear guide the process, even though I was masking it with a big ego. All those things that if you know anything about me, you've seen some of that behavior, and maybe you're even participating with some of it. And I talked to some people this week, quite interestingly. I talked to a guy that is in his late 60s about having awareness around his personality and how maybe some people are not attracted to his personality. What I realize more and more is it's not the fact that there's different people. There's going to be people that have clicked on this video that are even claimed to be friends with me who will say, that guy's full of shit. I know I'm not full of shit, so it doesn't really bother me in any way, but I'm starting to realize more and more how many people feel misunderstood. And once you start to really get drilled down on who you are as a person and what's important to you, what's valuable, and doing the right things, you're impervious. You are absolutely, completely outside of the realm of being pulled in to what other people think about what you're doing at all. And so I think that's one high-level point that's probably worth noting. But let me take you through a couple of things that I realized just kind of pushing myself through this last part. I was dealing with another agent that I was consulting, kind of helping them build through some parts of their business, which is pretty fundamental. And what we talked about was doing a physical challenge in order to try to pair that up and see the synergy between what you're trying to do personally and what you're trying to do professionally, because there is no difference. There should be no difference between who you are at the office, who you are at home, who you are with your health. There is no difference. And if you feel like you're acting differently in any of those places, it's because you just haven't gotten real clear on exactly what your values are, what's important to you, and where you're going. So I'm speaking in generalities, but I think it probably applies to most people, that when I was pushed to identify what's your goal, it was never that important to me, or at least I had it attached to something that was unimportant, like beating somebody else, being better than somebody else, selling more than somebody else, looking better than somebody else. It's all attached to things that are really empty, like vanity and praise and approval. And I was talking to my son John this week about approval because he's 12 and he's naturally at 12 years old working through like what's important, what other people think about me or what I think about myself, and what's more important, what I've accomplished and that someone thinks it was good. And I'm dealing directly with people at 67 years old, 55 years old, and 12 years old just this week that are all challenged with the same thing, just trying to, and here's what I would say it all comes back to, who you are. Because you're not trying to figure out what goal makes sense. That's external. You're not trying to figure out how much money you want to make. That's also related to approval and external, even though you have fundamental needs. Here's what feels really easy at the moment. What feels really easy at the moment is just be exactly who you are and attract the people that are looking for that message. And I have sat in this exact chair multiple times in the almost 3 years that I've had this company thinking, why does nobody want this message? Well, because it's difficult. It challenges people. It forces people to look at themselves to figure out what they're capable of, what they want. And we hide behind this idea that if we don't try and we don't set goals that we're actually capable of, then we don't have to experience the failure associated with not achieving them. So I set what now looks to be a pretty easy goal in hindsight of doing the 75 hard. It is hard. Work out twice a day. You got to prioritize your health a lot. You've got to eat right. You've got to avoid certain things that you may be addicted to. And your brain is controlling all these things at the highest level. And what's really interesting to me is anybody who might be listening to this that's looking to make some positive impact in their life, it's so incredibly simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. If you identify some of the things that you're doing to self-sabotage, if I know that things I'm saying are putting people off, could I say less of them? Or am I okay with the fact that the people that agree with me are moving towards me and the people that disagree are moving away? Because we live in a world now where people are, if they figure out that you think something that they don't think, then they immediately have to attack you and try to bring you down so that you question everything about your life. And we're constantly taught to do this, whether it's politics or religion or all the divisive things that are out there. And I'm not better than any of these people in regards to anything they think. But what I feel incredibly clear on now is what's right to me, what's important to me, what I want to focus on, and who I can help along the way. And I can remember when that was the message that was given, like you need to find out how you can help. You need to look out for the client's best interest. You need to, those types of ideas are so often overused. People have like in their signature of their email, like honesty, integrity, and people even question that about me, which I think is, well, I think that's crazy because I know me and they don't. But I also think it's interesting that people feel like they have to lead with that, and it's usually a good sign that it doesn't really drive their internal decisions, which is why I don't have integrity on my billboard. Because why would I need to put integrity on my billboard? Because if you have integrity, everybody knows that you have integrity. If you're driven, if you have good work ethic, if you have good core values, if you're coachable, if you're a team player, these are the core values of our company. If you are those things, people know it. They feel it. And what I like to say about that is the truth resonates at a high frequency. So if I were to get on this video and try to convince people that I'm something, it would be really apparent to most people that I was just trying to convince somebody that I am something. But if I'm truly getting on here in a vulnerable way, just saying this is exactly who I am, almost nobody can, unless they really, really would like to sell the idea that I'm not who I say I am, they really can't resist it, even if they don't share it or they don't want to push that message forward because it doesn't benefit them. They can't resist that message. And what I recognize through the last 75 days is when you become exactly who you are in every way and everything lines up, your calendar is who you say you are, your goals are exactly your behaviors, Your diet is what you're trying to become. It's so incredibly simple that people are just immediately recognize this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone who is who they say they are. So I'm pairing up a couple of different things because it's applicable in all different areas of my life, but it's also, I think, compelling in terms of the message that you're in your work and in your personal life. We all have these efforts to try to find more people that are looking for our message. And we're trying to make it really clear to people that don't have the same intentions that they should avoid our message, right? And so what happens is when you lead with exactly who you are all the time, you cannot help but find people that are looking for that message. So inside of 75 days, in the first 15, you get results physically. You know, you also have to take a picture of yourself every day, which is kind of an interesting point of vanity. When you go through that, then you start looking at this idea, I want to share this image to show people immediately that I'm doing something valuable. And so you start to recognize that need for approval. Then at about 30, 40 days, it becomes more about you and what you're experiencing. So I had a couple defining moments, right, where I had people that are not normally around me. We were talking about doing a day in the life video where someone just follows me around. And somebody who works with me every day said, well, they're not going to be surprised by what they see. They're going to see structure. They're going to see a diet that makes sense. They're going to see a schedule with work that people would hire, they would pay for. They're going to see a personal life that is full. They're going to see a family that makes sense and that understand and cares about each other. And these are the most difficult things I find that people struggle with. And when I talk to people on a one-on-one basis about, like, well, are you who you say you are to everybody? And does your message, well, I need to say it better. I need you to tell me how I can say this so that it works. In a sales environment, that's kind of one of the things we talk about. I'm at the point now where I don't have to think about what I say. Like, I didn't think about what I was going to say on this video because it would make the video inauthentic. And in a sales environment, yeah, there's structure. We have things that we say because people bring up similar objections or, generalities of people have the same, like, well, what's going to happen next? Or I'm scared of this part. Should I be scared of that? So there's some parts of it that are rote and that you bring out and say, well, this is what most people feel, and you might feel the same, and you can help future pace some of those problems. But what we identified at about 30 days, or I did, was, okay, look at your calendar, look at your bank account, look at everything that you're doing, look at your diet. Does all of this add up to who you're trying to be? That's real simple. It seems real simple. And then if it's not, you make adjustments. Like, okay. And here's the other thing that came out. I had a discussion with a group of salespeople about this, that we're constantly looking at those things like, I'm not getting the results I want, and you know exactly what you're doing to self-sabotage, and it is the small things. It's like, oh, I followed the diet, but I mean, I guess a couple of days I had ice cream and a couple of days. And we have this grace that we give ourselves in this area where it's like, I mean, come on, you have to have ice cream sometimes. No, you don't. Well, I mean, I go out with my friends and they're all drinking. I don't want to make them feel bad. I have to have drinks when I'm out, so I don't drink much. And I'm like, okay, so you don't poison yourself very often. I guess that's good. But why? Why do you poison yourself at all? And then I was without sugar for 75 days, which brought out an incredible amount of awareness in my brain, enough to where I could look back in the rearview mirror and say, okay, so that was what was keeping me inflamed. That was what was keeping me awake at night instead of sleeping. That was what making my energy go up and down. It's that simple. You may not like it. You may fight it. You may look for some other message or some peptide or some special protein bar or some shot that's going to help you control yourself. But in reality, it's not that difficult. Meaning, to identify what you're doing is not that difficult, but let me tell you how to apply it, because this I recognize it was hard for me and it's hard for most people. When I was able to recognize, like, okay, this is bad behavior, even if it's really small bad behavior, you're like, I'm doing everything right, I'm getting pretty good results. I call it failing at a high level. You do have those areas where you're like, yeah, I give myself a little grace here around gummy bears or sugar in this area or alcohol in this area. And this isn't a conversation about being perfect. It's not. But when you wake up and you're like, I'm not getting the results I want, and because people do this to themselves. They like to punish themselves with this idea that they're not perfect. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being who you are, which is different, but somehow better, almost in a perfect-like state. Because would you describe it as being perfect if I said everything feels right, everybody understands what I'm trying to say, everybody's clear on their goals and how they overlap with my goals, when people hire me, they feel good about what they've done. When they pay me money, they're like, that's how much I should have paid for that. Like, those are big things, even though they seem really easy. But if all those things were in line, life would just be easy at that point, right? You could just do more, and you could just build the life exactly the way you want it. And so at about 30 days, I recognized that there's just a synergy there. Does this schedule and this diet and everything add up to who you say you are? As I got closer to 75 days, then I started to recognize, like, I'm afraid to be off of this plan. I'm afraid to go back to no structure, no diet. I went back, had a couple cookies, had a big burrito, still, 8 years without alcohol. That's not going to change. I can't have that. No drugs, nothing else. No DMT, no microdosing, no weed, none of that kind of stuff. So I guess my biggest vice is when my daughter makes cookies, I like to have a couple. So that feels pretty good. But what I recognize is, okay, didn't make me feel good. It was fun. It's like everything. It feels good for a minute, but it's not getting me closer to where I want to be. I don't need it. And so I quit cigarettes when I was like 25, and it was an identity thing. Like, I'm not the kind of guy that smokes. And it's great now. I tell people, like, yeah, I smoked for like 10 years when I worked in the restaurant. And they're like, I just don't see you as a smoker. Well, I don't either. Or they say, well, I never knew you had a problem with alcohol, so it's kind of weird that you can't drink alcohol. Well, I could have probably pretended like I didn't have a problem with it for a long time too, and nobody would ever know except the people closest to me and me. I would know. And that's ultimately what it comes all back to. I can't present this identity as who I really am if I truly know that that's not who I am. And so towards 75 days, I realized there's things in this that I want to keep. I took a break from the exercise because my body was saying that's too much. I took a break and ate some of that food because you got to live a little, right? And it's all sampling, figuring out what works, what doesn't work. So I like the idea that I could live a life where I could moderate some things. Where, if I could have had 2 cigarettes a month, maybe I never would have quit. If I could have just had a couple, like one drink when everybody was having drinks once a month or once a quarter, I would do that. That's not how my brain works. My brain says, I like this, I want more of it, and I do it until it's in excess and it causes problems. We won't get into all the reasons that exists, but that is an epidemic, right? Everybody has that at some level. So who knows if that comes from when you were a baby or if people are just wired differently. It appears people are. But most of the people that I surround myself with are fanatical in this way, where if something works, they want to do it like crazy. They struggle with balance. They struggle with the idea that they could have a good home life and a good work life, and that you could make as much money as you want by doing the right things, telling people the truth, having a business that makes sense. We went through an exercise this week at the company where we just went back and made a list, and I said, all the people that have hired us to sell their houses, are we doing everything on the list that we claim that we do? Now, it sounds so rudimentary that you might be thinking, well, yeah, like if I hired somebody, I'm sure they're just doing. No, they're not. And I can tell you they're not, because I work alongside them and I see what they're doing. And it's little things, but it's so simple to overlook some of those little things that there's no accountability on. And in order to improve your life is the same on how you improve your business, is go back and look at the basic fundamentals and say, okay, this is what I said I would do if you hire me. Am I doing those things? It's so simple. And people pay a lot of money for that message. And when I ask that question, they go back and say, well, I've been meaning to get to all that, and I know I should be doing more there, but I'm out of time. Which brings me to another really interesting thing, time. If people really convince themselves that they have no time, and it's amazing, incredible to me what people do with their time and where time goes. When I quit drinking alcohol, I realized that I had 3 days in one. I thought I was working all day, and then I realized, no, you're working 1/3 of the day. And that's okay, because most people work like 1/10 of the day. And that's just true. I'm not trying to degrade anybody that might be watching this. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings with that. It's just true, because I realized I was pushing hard and presenting like, here's all the work I'm doing, and I was working 1/3 of the day. So I picked up 2 extra thirds. Well, and I went from 0 kids to 4 kids in 20 months. And anybody that has kids knows, once you have kids, you're like, oh, I thought I was busy before. I was not busy. Now I'm busy. And there's an analogy where you pour the golf balls in the jar and ask, is it full? Then you pour sand in the jar and you ask, is it full? Yeah, it's full. Then you pour water in the jar. It's not full. You have way more time than you think you do. And I'm afforded the opportunity to come into my office on Saturday. I could be doing other things. But I like the opportunity to come in on a Saturday and overview everything that happened for the week, see if we're fulfilling our obligations to our clients, see if the people that ask me for accountability are doing what they say they would do. Really simple stuff, but it's quiet. It's a good opportunity to review all that. And so I feel an incredible sense of clarity getting through this 75 hard about doing hard things isn't just about being able to present it in a way that, look at me, I do hard shit. It's more about this message to yourself that when I say I'm going to do it, I do it. And I was given this message by a coach of mine probably 10 years ago, where she would say, do this activity, and I would come back at the end of the week and say, well, I did most of it, but this got in the way, and you got to understand, I'm trying to do all these things, and then this person called, and so I did okay. And she would challenge my integrity and say, how is it possible that you would say, this is what I'm going to do, and then not do it? It just doesn't make any sense. So that should be a really simple point for somebody who's struggling with anything that we've talked about on here. It's truly that simple. Now, I know, because I have these conversations with groups, that it's easy to hear that and go, okay, that was good. That was nice. Hey, thanks for sharing that video. That made sense to me, but there's generally no action. And I've been there where I'm like, okay, yeah, you're great. You're doing something that works for you, but you don't understand what I'm going through. Well, that's why I think I have to be the one to share the message, because I do know what you're going through, because I've lied to myself. I've misrepresented myself. I've overstated my ego. I've compared myself to others. I've violated all these things in the universe that were clearly just confusing me about why I wasn't getting the result that I wanted to get. And so the clarity that's available that I want to convey is, you know exactly what you're doing that's making your life more difficult. It may take you 10 years, but if it took you 10 years from where you were right now to get to the point where you feel incredible clarity about not only why you were doing it, but what you can do to stop, in this life, 10 years is nothing. 10 years goes by in a blink, and the idea that you could be there in 10 years should be a really exciting idea. So if it's out in the future, if it's a goal, and I was thinking about these goals today because it just feels incredibly wide open to me. Like, why have I been holding myself back on any of these? Why are my goals not even 10 times what they are? Why are my goals not 100 times what they are? There's no reason that the message that I'm sharing now doesn't make it to 1 million people or 10 million or 100 million people. It's the human condition that we're talking about. And I haven't solved all of that, but what I've done is I've taken a very flawed person and worked through those little individual things that were holding me back, and then alleviating myself from all the challenges I was causing myself. So maybe I don't want to repeat myself on any of those things, so I'm not going to continue to beat that up. But here's, like, if I had to break it down really simple on actionable steps that I'm going to continue to use for myself, if you just look at the things that work and you keep doing them, you look at the people around you that are not making your life easier, that are not making your life better, and you relieve yourself of that obligation. It's quite simple. Life becomes easier. Then you look at the things that would improve your life and you do more of those things, but you start smaller. So oftentimes I have this conversation with people that are experiencing trouble at work or trouble with any of the things we discussed. Then they want to take everything on. I'm going to be perfect tomorrow. I'm going to eat perfect. I'm going to drink a gallon of water. I'm going to do everything you say at work. I'm going to fix all these relationships. And it's just too much. We're just not wired for all that. So if you note that, if you take this and you go, okay, I know that I'm drinking too much. I know that sugar, I don't think it's a problem, but it might be. Fine. Recognize it's hard to read that label from inside the jar. So might be a problem. And I had this list. I had the list that said, what if I quit drinking? And it was on my list for like 5 years. 5 years. And I'd look for signs from the universe. And I'd have people that I trusted. I'm pointing to my canvas right above my desk where I have mentors that have said to me, you're going to ruin your whole life over this. This is going to be a problem. Why are you doing that? There's signs from the universe that people that care about you that are looking at you going, look, I'd like to tell this person the truth, but yeah, man, you're doing your best, whatever, and they're just not willing to break through that and say, stop doing that. But so you write it down. Maybe I have a problem with this. Maybe I should do more of this. Maybe I should run with the business idea that I've been having, and I'm afraid to put myself out there. And if you're watching this video and you're thinking, like, I'm afraid to put myself out there, video's hard. I mean, it's hard to get on a video and talk about anything. To get on here and talk about what the real estate market is doing, you feel this idea that there's thousands of people watching it, and that's overwhelming for a lot of people. And that's because the message isn't clear. It's not coming from a place where you know exactly what you're trying to do with the message. And if you look through the list and say, like, yeah, that would be hard if I was going to break this relationship, like, that's hard. And that's probably the thing I see people struggle with most is this bias they have towards, well, I've been in this relationship for so long, it's comfortable. And that's what I realize about all the stuff, too, that I'll share is that we do what's comfortable. We do what we expect to do. Our life is just built on these habit loops. And your habit loops are like, I don't even know why I eat ice cream. It's just what I do. And it's not like eating ice cream's all that big of a deal, but I think you understand that's the point of this conversation is we're talking about the little things that are causing bigger problems. And I get this a lot, I don't think I have a problem with alcohol. And I'll say, okay, well, how much are you doing it? I don't know, a couple times a month, and it doesn't seem to be a big deal. That, like I said, that'd be great. I wish I could just have it a couple times a month and not think about it. I can't do that. So maybe that's not an issue for you. Maybe it's not. Or maybe the other thing I think is, why would you even do it a couple times a month if you just don't even care about it? That's confusing to me too. But then I'm like, why do I need tortilla chips deep fried in a bunch of bullshit that's just going to make me feel like crap? I don't think I need that either. And that's a crazy thought for a lot of people because they're like, dude, you're not even living a life at that point. No, I'm going to challenge you on this point and be really clear on this. You are giving up everything that's good in your life for a couple seconds of pleasure in every way. I didn't intend for that to be like the defining message, but I think that is the defining message that I pulled out of it is a couple moments of pleasure in every area of your life. The idea that you're pursuing leisure or I guess the other thing that I'll mention is the people that are pursuing happiness. Like, it's not making me happy. Yeah, but are you happy? I understand the idea of being happy, But what I can tell you is it's way down the list of things in terms of what you're pursuing, because if you make it more about purpose, if you make it more about legacy, if you make it more about the right decisions, and you prioritize these things, you don't have to worry about money. Not to say that I don't have enough money that I never have to worry about money, but I know that what I'm doing is going to resonate with enough people that I will never have to worry about money. And I know that if I eat all the right things, that I never have to worry about all the health conditions that comes with eating bad things. Like it's such a large multiplier over time of being able to make better decisions that it's probably worth noting. So if you make that short list and say, I don't think this is really a problem, but I'm not getting every result I want. I don't feel really clear about everything. I'm stuck in this spot where everything feels the same. Everything feels difficult. And believe me, it wasn't that long ago that a lot of things about my life felt a lot more difficult. Like within a year and a half, lost my video there. Within a year and a half of feeling really out of sorts with all of those things, which should be encouraging for somebody who only has a few things that they can work on. Like, what if you're only 18 months away from feeling really good about everything you're building and everything you're doing and every relationship you have? So I think maybe I'm coming from a little bit of a place of condescension, and I don't intend to, because I'm like, life is easy. Do the right shit. And I know how that sounds. But what if it were true? What if it was so true that you literally just do the right things and life is easier? Or it's just on easy mode. Because you know people like this where it just seems like their life's easy. They don't have a lot of drama. They're not overweight. They don't have health problems. They don't seem to struggle with money. They don't struggle with trying to convince everybody that they're incredible all the time. Like, just easy people. I find that there's people that I really enjoy. They may not even know how much I enjoy them. Like, people that will probably see this video where I'm just like, I just enjoy that there's no competition there. They're just doing their life. And when our life overlaps, it's easy. And I come to find out, like, every relationship in your life is that way. It's real simple. Your body will tell you, like, this is hard. And we chalk it up to, like, well, that love is hard, or, you know, business is hard. Yeah, but there's little things that your body will tell you that are wrong, and you should listen to those things because it's real simple. Like, a really good person at the company makes everything easy. Every conversation's easy. Every action item is easy. All the initiatives are clear. Same with relationships. Like, how I feel about you is how you feel about me. And we don't have to question that. We don't have to cause problems to try to remind each other of that. It's just easy. And so I'll leave it at that because it's been too long. Way too long. I can't believe how long I've talked. If anything in your life feels hard, if anything in your life feels out of balance, it's no further away than you to just note that out and give yourself enough grace to start small on it and say, maybe it takes me 2 years, maybe it takes me 1, maybe it takes me 10. But it doesn't matter, because the only purpose in this life is the pursuit of that. And the only purpose is to try to get that figured out. At the ripe old age of 44 years old now, which I'm in between thinking I'm old and thinking I'm young, and I'm reminded by my kids that I'm old, and then I see people that are my age and I think, you're old and I'm not, is how I feel. Again, not condescending. I just don't feel old. But what I do feel is wiser in the sense that, gosh, I was really, really doing some stupid things that were really easy to avoid. Why was I doing that? And is there anybody else that might benefit from the idea that you don't have to do that anymore? So that's it. I could keep going, but I'm not going to. 75 hard is not right for everybody, but the pursuit of doing what's right for you, doing something difficult, figuring out where you're self-sabotaging, definitely worth it. Take care. Hope you're well.